It's the Real News Network. I'm Sharmini Pires coming to you from Baltimore. Tens of thousands of protesters will greet Donald Trump when he is inaugurated on Friday as the 45th President of the United States of America. Today, throughout the day, we will be going live with people who are organizing various protests in Washington, D.C., so do join us live on Facebook. The following day, on the 21st, the Women's March on Washington is expected to draw the largest inauguration-related protest in U.S. history. On both days, women of color are taking a leading role in resistance to President Trump, who takes office as the least popular president in recent memory. Now joining us to discuss this is a leader of It Takes Roots, Cindy Weisner. Cindy is a national coordinator of the Grassroots Global Justice Alliance and a co-chair of the Climate Justice Alliance and our Power Campaign. Thanks for joining us, Cindy.
Thank you so much. What's up? Hello. Hola, mi gente. Really glad to be here with Real News Network live on Facebook.
So, Cindy, as I said in the intro, protests have been taking place all week, including a queer dance party at Mike Pence's house Wednesday night. Groups have vowed to disrupt the inauguration with direct action, not only all week, but certainly head-on Friday. This is the first time such inaugural protests have taken place in the history of the United States. So tell me, why are you organizing with this coalition? It Takes Roots, and also tell us what you're planning to do.
Sure. Well, thank you for inviting me. And we're here in Washington, D.C. Really excited to be here to mobilize tomorrow at the J20 actions, and also to be a contingent, a woman of color contingent and allies at the Women's March. And so I'm a daughter of a domestic worker, an immigrant domestic worker. I'm Latina, I'm a lesbian, I'm also an organizer. And I think under the Pence and Trump and his entire administration are really fomenting a climate of hate that really threatens me, my family, my community, and millions of other people like me. And I think that this is why I'm here, but this is also why we, as our different alliances, have come together in this moment, a visionary opposition that is going to be so desperately needed in this era of Trumpism. So I am the national coordinator for Grassroots Global Justice Alliance, but we're also a member and of the Climate Justice Alliance. But we're coming together with Climate Justice Alliance, the Indigenous Environmental Network, and the Right to the City Alliance, and teaming up to create the It Takes Roots to grow the resistance delegation. We have grassroots leaders and organizers from across the country, and we're coming together at this historic moment to really build our collective power and voice here in the streets of Washington, D.C., but we're also in 10 different cities doing translocal actions that will coordinate with our activities tomorrow on the 20th, and also at the Women's March on the 21st.
Right. So, Cindy, we know that groups of pro-Trump demonstrators and unprecedented security will meet you as protesters. What are you planning to do to deal with these obstacles in terms of your right to protest and be seen protesting?
That's right. I think that what is at stake is you know, many of us are very clear about the threat of Trumpism, and we're very clear about the threat of white rage in our communities. Many of us come from migrant communities, come from Black communities, Muslim, Arab communities, queer communities, and in a lot of ways we've been resisting already. What's so important about being able to stand together in solidarity with each other is, one, to be able to show that we're growing the resistance that's already been in existence, but that needs to multiply, and that we know that 80% of the people of this country did not vote for Donald Trump. We know that there's people that did vote for Trump that have buyer's remorse and are regretting what it is that they did. And then there's people out there that are really concerned about things that we're concerned about, that I think are open to being able to be won over, to be able to not be moved by hate or by fear or isolation, but that can be moved by actually a vision that's actually going to be different, because I think Trump is not going to meet the needs. He's not going to fulfill many of his promises and not going to meet the needs that people actually so desperately want. And so for us, we're not here, we're here to give a message. We have young people from Standing Rock that have come all the way out here, some of the original young people that ran and then were part of the original encampment. So the International Native Youth Council is here with us today. We have people who are at the front line of extractive fights that are happening across the country. We have folks that have been our domestic workers that have been fighting for their rights, people who have been, folks from the Black Lives Matters movement. And so I think that in our ways, this is an opportunity to really put forward our vision, that visionary opposition that's needed to draw a line in the sand, that we're not legitimizing this president and this administration, and that we're here to be able to say, be clear what we're saying no to, but also be clear that what we're saying yes to. And I think that a lot of our organizations and the movements that we come out of are really providing that framework around a just transition to the regenerative economy, rebel cities, and the defense of housing and land, reclaiming grassroots feminisms, and really being able to talk about how as working class women, as white women, as gender nonconforming folks, as women of color, we're part of this growing feminist movement from the grassroots, to the issues of protecting the sacred, learning from our Indigenous brothers and sisters who've been have been holding down the stronghold in North Dakota, and being able to really model what it means to protect water and to protect life, and to really show that that's the kind of resistance that we're going to be needing in this next period.
Cindy, in Standing Rock, that was a great demonstration of the kind of force that's going to be used against demonstrators and protesters, and that was in Standing Rock. Imagine tomorrow during an inauguration with all these very important people at the inauguration. They're going to be really forceful when it comes to security. And yesterday, in fact, we heard some rumors going on that the media was going to be barred from covering demonstrations like yours. Have you heard anything about that? Because usually, media does play a role in protecting your right to demonstrate.
That's right. I mean, I think what we know is that there is going to be a criminalization of protest, a criminalization of dissent. And that goes hand in hand with authoritarian types of regimes. We know this from lessons from international brothers and sisters. When there's been right-wing coups or right-wing shifts in politics and in power, we know that goes hand in hand. And so for us, it's really important for us to be able to defend our right to dissent, to defend our right to stand up and say what we need to say, and create more space. There has to be strong media, like our alternative media, that needs to be strengthened in this period to be able to tell our stories and tell the truth. And I think that that's going to be really key and important, is how to help continue to help folks sort of make sense of all the lies that they're hearing, and combating that with the truth. And so we are very clear that we have a story to tell, that we're a contingent that's led by women of color, by working class folks, it's intergenerational, by young people. We're clear that we're here to give a message of what we think is important, and to really begin to say we got to grow this resistance, that it takes roots to grow the resistance, and that we need to come together in real, true, deep solidarity around a joint vision for that change that is going to be so necessary in this next coming period.
Right. Now, with the Republicans controlling the presidency, and you can hear from all the congressional hearings that has been going on for the last 2 weeks, that you're going to be met with a lot of resistance in terms of the objectives and goals you have as a coalition and, of course, as an organization that you represent. How are you planning in the long term to deal with the kind of people that's going to be heading this administration, particularly the cabinet, which is going to be one of the wealthiest cabinets ever? They're going to be interested in protecting the ruling elite in this country, and not the likes of the people that you are representing in your coalition, in your organization, and the concerns that indigenous people have, or women of color, or immigration rights, and so forth. How are you going to face this in the long term?
So I think that every day the national political landscape continues to change for the worse. And the appointments, as you mentioned, to the incoming administration are clearly an assault to the many gains that people of color, women, migrants, LGBTQ communities, indigenous people, low-income tenants, workers, that we have won and continue to fight for. And so in a lot of ways, we are going to have to really devise strategies to defend the gains we've made. But I think more importantly, we're going to have to really be able to be that visionary opposition and be able to make the demands that that in a lot of ways, counter the hegemony, right, about what's even possible. And I think that that's really important, because there is going to be implications on the local level, on the national level, at the international level, for decades to come. And I think that part of what we understand is many of our members know what's at stake at this moment, and we're looking to each other to fortify our grassroots movement and be able to build the power necessary for what lies ahead. And so we're clear that this moment has to be both oppositional but also visionary, and lifting up those regenerative solutions that I think are going to be so necessary. And I think that's the message. So today we brought together leaders and organizers from all over the country to be together. So today we're spending time doing trainings around 21st century community defense. What does that look like, not only for migrants, but also for our Arab brothers and sisters, Muslim brothers and sisters, for the queer folks, to Black lives, to Black organizers and activists and peoples. And how do we then expand that frame of what does community defense look like? The second training that we're doing is around just transition, and how do we begin to talk about this moment? What does the just transition to the next economy look like? And how do we engage people in that vision of what that could look like, rather than a dig, burn, dump economy that Trump and his cronies are going to put forward? How are we actually being able to counter that, right? So when he talks about infrastructure bill, it's not a whole bunch of fossil fuel industry jobs that are going to destroy people and the planet and our natural resources, but it's actually how do we then begin to think about climate jobs instead, that both heal the planet, but also can give people a living wage, union jobs. And so I think this is the moment for those visionary demands, and for us not to step back, and like I said, to really draw the line and not normalize this presidency, not normalize what this is. It's like Trump is he's a manipulator, he's a liar, he doesn't have the mandate of this country. And I think that part of that is we got to be able to be clear about why we need to have this fight, and at the same time, really on the local level, really begin to do those cross-movement sectoral conversations, build that alternative vision, and be able to, again, defend each other and defend the gains that we've been able to make up to this moment.
All right. I do have to ask you a couple of contentious issues here. The coalition and groups like yourselves had the chance to express yourself in the elections and could have had a different outcome. Why weren't you out there organizing with the same rigor you are now?
Hey, we were. We were absolutely were. Grassroots Global Justice Alliance took a delegation from the RNC to the DNC because we thought it was really important at the conventions, both in Ohio and Philadelphia, to bring up these issues and talk to people about why we needed to talk about this visionary opposition, how we needed to talk about the issues that were really that really mattered in the election process. A lot of us worked on get out the vote activity. I live in Miami. I'm from Florida. We were hitting the groundwork. We were out there knocking on doors and trying to get people to vote. And if you look at southern Florida, we were able to in comparison to the rest of Florida, we did make a dent there. But then I think the more important thing is that and we were also part of when those very disturbing and dehumanizing comments came out in terms of Trump with his basically sexual assault admission in terms we were part of organizing with women all over this country the GOP hands off me actions that happened and the pussy grabs back actions that happened that in a lot of ways I think created the conditions for something like a women's march to happen. And so I think that we were out there trying to really do the work from the electoral level to the street heat at the RNC and the GOP hands off me. And I think that the next day, we mourned with everybody, but we also were very clear that we had to organize and we pulled together this alignment of forces to be here in DC, but also again to do actions in our local communities.
As you were in terms of organizing and protesting against the previous administration as well, I guess this is a new surge of energy to organize against Trump because he stands for so much more anti issues that you stand for. So I wish you all the luck tomorrow and beyond.
Yeah. So tomorrow, Friday, January 20th at 9 a.m., the It Takes Roots to Grow the Resistance delegation is doing an action at the Department of Energy and then going over to the HUD offices. So please, if you're in DC, please join us there. We're then going to be a contingent at the noon mobilization that starts at Union Station. And then on Saturday, we're inviting women of color, gender nonconforming folks, allies to meet with us at Garfield Park, which is at the corner of 3rd Street and G Street Southeast, and follow us at hashtag It Takes Roots, hashtag Grow the Resistance, hashtag Water is Life, and then hashtag Grassroots Feminism. So look us up at growtheresistance.org if you're wanting to support, and if you're not here and wanting to help support some of our delegates in their participation in this, please go to our website. But we really want to thank everybody. And, this is the moment. We know we're the roots of the resistance. We're combining forces to really declare that we're really an unstoppable force of nature, that women of color, more than ever, leadership is needed to build, to secure, water, land, rights to home and dignity. And I think that that's the moment right now that we're really excited to be building with. And we know that the work is at home, but we also think that these national moments of being able to be in the streets together is really key.
All right, that's Cindy Weisner with It Takes Roots, organizing demonstrations for the upcoming weekend inauguration. I thank you so much, Cindy, for joining us.
All right, thank you all. Take care.
And thank you for joining us here on the Real News Network.